So there's always these players in professional sports that never truly have closure. They never truly finish their career the way that they would like. And maybe this is the case for most athletes, but one athlete in particular that really never has had closure to his sport is Tio Terrell Owens. And with Tio, there was always these rumors circulating for weeks, months, really years, ever since he's kind of hung up the cleats, so to speak, since the last time he took the NFL field. Everybody was wondering, is Tio ever going to come back? Is he ever going to pursue a comeback in the NFL? And for all this time, it's really seemed like Tio is sure taking some time off football, but also decided to kind of hit the field, stay in shape, with always that chance of him making his way back to an NFL team, making his way back onto an NFL field, and ultimately us as fans watching him play on Sundays once again. And with Tio, sure, that kind of sounds like an awesome thing, but really, it's not realistic for a 44 or whatever year old man to expect that he's going to be able to play in the NFL. CFL, maybe, possibly, but the NFL, no, probably not. And this is saying Tio, who's still an incredible athlete, still a guy in tremendous shape, and still a guy that would be able to think the game, no doubt about it. But with Tio, he's of course going into the Hall of Fame this year. It's been 4 years, 4+ years since he's retired. And he's been able to now get into the Hall of Fame after his second try, I believe. And there was a lot of just people all over the Hall of Fame and in the voting process for him getting into the Hall of Fame. But at least this time around, now that he's kind of been, some people would say, screwed over from being a first ballot Hall of Famer, he now gets this incentive of still going into the Hall of Fame because we knew he would eventually go in. He's going in with a class with Randy Moss, which is nice, and he's going in with Ray Lewis and kind of, that one generation of great players and superstars, and as well as Brian Dawkins as well, and some of these other guys. And now Terrell Owens, as well as going into the Hall of Fame finally, is going to be on the Madden 19 Hall of Fame edition, as we know that the GOAT edition was last year. They've done some Hall of Fame editions. They did a Marshall Faulk one back in the day. They've done a Barry Sanders cover. They've done now Terrell Owens is going to be on the Hall of Fame edition of Madden 19, which you'll be able to get on an early release. I believe it's August 7th if you're interested in that. I'm a big Madden guy, so I figured why not bring up who should be on the cover for Madden 19. I think it's very interesting to kind of talk about this and play through the possibilities and kind of bring up some of the big possibilities, because I really think that this is a year that doesn't have too many really just clear-cut choices for the Madden 19 cover. And although Madden and the cover of Madden has been associated with a curse, I think it's also an honor. And to be on a video game in a high stature as Madden, it's the same thing as almost winning an award or being named one of the best players in the NFL, or sometimes being named one of the future stars of the sport itself. So I think Madden being on the cover is just a recognition of being a great football player, and not only being a great football player, but also being a great personality and an ambassador for the sport. So I think with the Madden 19 cover, you're thinking about those sort of players that will be able to do both. Not only be a great player on the field and be recognized for that, but also be an ambassador for the sport, be a guy with some personality, and be a guy that people that play the video game and NFL fans would want to pick up the game because he's on the cover. So, that being said, with Terrell Owens being on the Hall of Fame edition, the ultimate cover athlete as far as I'm concerned with Tio, not only is he a great player, but also a guy that sure rubs some people the wrong way, but also a guy that was extremely out there and an extreme personality. So, with Madden 19, I'm going to give you 4 or 5 different options in terms of a cover. I want to hear what you guys have to think in terms of who should be on the Madden 19 cover, but I'm going to give you my ultimate decision at the end of the day, but I'm just going to throw out some ideas. So let's start out with the LA theme cover. So my LA theme cover could be one player, but it also could be multiple players. I was thinking do an LA Rams cover, have Aaron Donald, who's recognized as the best player in on defense right now in the NFL by a lot of people, and also give him a little bit more recognition amongst casual fans, which I still don't think he has quite to the level of some of these other guys like a Khalil Mack or a Von Miller. So put him in that class and kind of bump his stock up. But I also think he would be a cool guy to have on the cover, as well as you could have not only him on the cover, but you could add the LA theme with Todd Gurley as well, the resurgence of LA, all the hype around LA. I think he would really capitalize on that well, seeing as how they had a big offseason. They're a team with a lot of momentum and a team that has a lot of, a very bright future. So I think you could have a split cover, defense, offense. You could have Todd Gurley and Aaron Donald, LA themed. That would be pretty cool in my opinion. Of course, Todd Gurley was one of the runner-ups for the MVP award this last season. Definitely deserves to be on the cover. Or you could have Todd Gurley. Because when you talk about Madden, it's really about the player that played excellent this past season, or you expect to be really good going into the future. Those are the two players that usually get on it. Or it's basically based off the theme of what they're looking for in the game. And that's what they've added some additions to the game. Like last year was Tom Brady for the first time, which Tom Brady probably could have been on it multiple times, but finally decided to be on it this time. You've sort of run out of Patriot possibilities with Gronk being on it and Brady being on it, I think in back-to-back years now. The year before that was OBJ. And you have to think about the guys that have already been on it. So that being said, you have the LA theme cover. Another guy would be Alvin Kamara, who I feel would be a superstar, cool running back that everybody seems to like, has a really awesome and Madden type of playing style, an electric runner, but can also catch the football, multifaceted, versatile, fantasy football stud. I think a lot of Madden players would get behind Alvin Kamara being the cover guy. So I think Alvin Kamara would be an interesting choice, although I don't think it would be at the top of the list for running backs. I feel like Todd Gurley would probably be up there. Of course, David Johnson was hurt this past year. Le'Veon Bell is in sort of a weird situation with his contract. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott, who of course had the whole legal stuff and the suspension, so you wouldn't necessarily want to put him on the cover. So when you're looking at a running back, I feel like it would be Todd Gurley or possibly Alvin Kamara. Anybody else I just don't think has the personality to really get it done. Defensively, you could go with a Jaguars themed cover, not color. You could go with, of course, there would be their color on there, but you want to go with a defensive cover, possibly a Jalen Ramsey or maybe like a Saxonville themed cover. You kind of had a Legion of Boom cover with the Richard Sherman thing. Maybe you could go now with Jalen Ramsey and a Saxonville cover. So you definitely could go that way if the game is more defensive oriented or whatever it may be. But Jalen Ramsey certainly has the personality. He's a guy that fits all the billings, right? He's a guy with a big personality. He's one of the best players in the NFL, and he also is one of the players that's on the rise. And I think this would increase his stock even more to some of the casual fan base. So Jalen Ramsey, I think, would be a really cool pick for a defensive guy. And then before I say my final pick, the quarterback situation, right? You had Tom Brady last year. You've never had Aaron Rodgers on the cover, but I don't think that would work this year just because he was hurt. So looking at some of the other top quarterbacks from last year, you've never had Big Ben on the cover, but I don't really think he's been like one of the best guys these past couple of years. I mean, he's in the top 5 or 6, but he's not necessarily the best. Drew Brees was already on the cover before, so you don't necessarily want to go there. So quarterbacks, Russell Wilson would be an interesting pick. He's well-known, definitely has a big market, a lot of fans. There's been a lot of Seattle fans recently. He was one of the better quarterbacks this past year, but to me, he doesn't really have that. He is a superstar, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't really have that kind of personality that you really want to put on a Madden cover, but I could see him being on there. The other picks to me would be the 2 Philadelphia quarterbacks. I think it would be really interesting if they went with Carson Wentz, being that he is one of the future guys of the position, one of the future faces of football. And then you also have Nick Foles, who had this miraculous run. So you could have 2 totally different covers One, Carson Wentz, you know, the future of the position, the future quarterback, future star, future MVP. And then you have Nick Foles, kind of the underdog story, the guy that came out of nowhere, the Super Bowl champion, and you could focus on that aspect of it. Or you could go even more in depth with that Philadelphia cover and going with like a Nick Foles underdog thing where maybe you have like Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey with the dog masks on or whatever. That would be interesting. So you could go with the quarterback route with Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, or Nick Foles, or maybe the Philadelphia cover. My final pick, though, and my pick to go on the Madden cover would be because T.O. is on the Hall of Fame cover. I think it would be awesome to see Antonio Brown on the Madden cover. Of course, OBJ was already on it, who's probably the biggest superstar in the NFL. Him and Tom Brady, certainly. And then you have the receiver position, when you look at it right now, of course, T.O.'s on the Hall of Fame edition. So maybe if you're doing some sort of receiver, something in the game is about the receivers or it's about the passing game or playmakers or whatever it may be, personalities. T.O. certainly fits the bill for the Hall of Fame edition. Antonio Brown certainly fits the bill for the player right now. So you have Antonio Brown, who is sort of a diva. He's a superstar, but he makes plays. He has touchdown celebrations. He's exciting. He's the best receiver in the game for many. And I feel like Antonio Brown would be the right pick for this season. And you could also kind of play into it with T.O., how it's like not a passing of the torch, but kind of like two different generations on the cover of Madden. So I feel like that would be really cool. So my pick overall would be Antonio Brown, but I also feel like a few of the other cool covers you could go with would be the LA theme with Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley. Probably number 2, if you were going defense, you could go Jalen Ramsey. Maybe you have an Antonio Brown and Jalen Ramsey cover. That'd be kind of cool, like you did Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitz in the past. Alvin Kamara would be my outside shot pick, and then the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles. That's who I would put on the cover of Madden 19. I would pick Antonio Brown, but that would be my list of guys that I'd throw out there for EA Sports, as well as people out there that play Madden. Of course, if you guys want to play me in Madden, add me on PSN, Patsman1281. Hit me up on there. I'm definitely a big Madden player, so if you ever want to play me, hit me up. But yeah, I just wanted to throw this video out there more as a little bit of a fun video, but also to gauge the interests of Madden on the channel, as well as Madden in general in terms of who you looking for on the Madden cover this year. It's a big accolade in my opinion, especially from my generation growing up with Madden. So I want to see a good player represent it, and I think Antonio Brown would definitely be the right choice. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe for more NFL content. Peace out.